guys, Laura with Garden Answers. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about wintering your plants over in containers. I know it feels a little bit late. We're into December. There's already snow on the ground here in Eastern Oregon and it is 25 degrees out here. But there are some tips that I thought might help you winter your plants over in containers. The first thing though that I want to say is that it's always a risk. You never know what the weather is going to do. We just can't predict that. A couple of years ago, we had a temperature shift of 40 degrees in about 24 to 36 hours. So it dropped 40 degrees and it killed some mature trees even. So even if you do everything right, there's still a risk. So just know that. The first thing though that you want to do is choose the right plant. You want to choose plants that are about 2 zones hardier than the zone that you're currently growing in. So like I'm in a zone 5, so that means that I need to go down 2 zones from that, so to a zone 3. And that way you have a little bit more buffer. To find your growing zone, the best way to find that out is to go to your local garden center. They know exactly what you can plant. They know what's going to survive. I find that there are a few different zone maps out there, and they can be a little bit confusing. So your local garden center is the best way to go. The reason why you want to go a couple of zones colder is because when you have your plants in pots, they're much more prone to go through freeze-thaw cycles, because we'll have colder days and nicer days, and depending on where your plants are sitting, if they're in a sunny spot, they can warm up quite considerably during the day and then they'll freeze again at night, and that's really hard on their root system. So if you have a hardier plant, you're much better off. The other thing is to consider the size of your container. The larger the pot, it's kind of obvious, larger the pot, the more insulation they'll have around their root system. Also the type of pot you're using. It's better to use like wood, composite, metal, resin, that kind of thing is a lot better in freezing temperatures than like your terracotta and clay. So right behind me I have a very poor example of what you should not do, and I planted a bunch of stuff in terracotta, and I have successfully done it and I have unsuccessfully done it, so that is a risk there. I've had this boxwood in this pot right here for probably 6 or 7 years. I should probably take it out and put it in the ground. It's probably horribly root bound, but it still thrives and does really great. And then I've got a Spartan juniper spiral here in a large terracotta pot, and I just wanted to show you, this is what happens. This is what happens to your terracotta if you leave it out. It will start to crack and shards will come off. So let me show you an example of something better. So these resin pots will do a lot better throughout the winter, and they are quite large, so they've got a nice sized reservoir for the perennial roots that I have in here. There are 2 perennials in this pot, the Desert Plains Pennisetum, which has been so gorgeous through the fall, and then I've got a heucherella here. I do also have some pansies and kale, which are starting to flag a little bit under the cold temperatures, so I can either leave those in or pop them out, but I think the perennials will do really well in here. So now if you have your plant in a large pot and it's also 2 zones lower than your current growing zone, then you should be good. A couple things you can do is, if you've got pots like that that are easy to move, you can huddle them together, and that way they provide a little warmth for each other. Or if you've got them on a patio or a deck or something that's raised up off the ground, it's best to get them on the ground if you can. If you can move them, that's best. Now if you are being a gambler and you have perennials or shrubs that are your growing zone or just one beneath it, then there are a few things that you can do to kind of help your plants along. And the first thing is to put them in an unheated garage or shed. Our barn here is unheated. This would be a good place. It doesn't have to be lit. It can just be dimly lit or even dark, because they're dormant. They don't need the light to grow. So the barn, we've got a potting shed, we've got an unheated greenhouse. Places like that are perfect for these pots. And it doesn't really provide a lot of heat for them, but it helps them not go through the freeze-thaw quite as much. It just creates a little bit more buffer. The other thing you can do, if you've thought about it earlier enough in the season and your ground's not frozen, is you can dig a hole and put the whole pot and plant and all down in the hole, just leaving the lip of the pot up just a little bit up above the soil surface so you can easily remove it in the spring. That way it benefits from being at the same level as all the other soil, and there's a lot of insulation around it. And then, like I said earlier, you can huddle all your pots together for warmth. You can even wrap the pots with a thick layer of burlap or bubble wrap, or you can even hill them in with straw, anything to provide a little bit of extra warmth. And the last thing you need to do to care for your plants is to make sure to keep them watered. And I know it's the last thing on all of our radars when everything is not looking like it's growing, it's just a bunch of sticks, and you know, it's like the last thing on our mind to water them, but you don't want to let the roots dry out, and that can happen really easily when the reservoir of soil is so little. Even for the plants that you have in your garage, your barn, or in outbuildings, they still need to have a little bit of water. So typically what I do is you give them a really good watering in right at the end of the season, and then you just keep your eye on them. We've got some evergreens in pots downtown. We've done videos on it before, and I actually take the water tank out every 2 to 3 weeks just to give them a little bit, because you just can't rely on rain or snow to give them the moisture that they need. A lot of times if they're evergreen, the leaves deflect a lot of the moisture and it doesn't actually make it to the root system. So you just want to make sure to just keep them lightly moist. You don't want them to be too soggy or completely dry. So you just want to keep them evenly moist. And one other thing I forgot to mention was not to fertilize. Your plants won't need any fertilizer until you see active growth in the spring. And that's it, you guys. I hope this video is helpful to you, especially if you have perennials, evergreen shrubs, something like that in pots. I hope that if you were wondering about how to do it successfully, I hope this video helped you out. We will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. What a good boy. Oh. He's a playful mood right now. Kitty, kitty. Are you cold? You need to go back inside? Full of energy.